Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Eating clean, exercising consistently, and yet the fat just won't budge. That frustrating plateau where results stall, motivation dips, and self-doubt creeps in. You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. You're simply bumping into biology. See, fat loss isn't just a willpower game. It's a neurochemical and hormonal process, one that's heavily influenced by your brain's perception of energy, safety, stress, and reward. Here's the surprising truth. Your body is designed to defend fat stores, not maliciously, but because from an evolutionary standpoint, stored energy was the key to survival. And your brain still operates from that ancient playbook. And so what that means is this. If you're not losing fat, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's likely because your nervous system is sensing threat, whether that's from overtraining, undereating, or chronic stress, and shifting your metabolism into conservation mode. Now, here's the good news. You can work with your biology instead of against it. And that's what today's video is about. Using insights from neuroscience, endocrinology, and behavioral psychology, I'm going to walk you through 5 counterintuitive, science-backed strategies to speed up fat loss safely, sustainably, and without wrecking your hormones or mindset in the process. Some of these tips might go against what you've heard in fitness circles, but they're grounded in real evidence, peer-reviewed research, metabolic studies, and what we now understand about the brain-body connection. We'll look at how your sleep-wake cycle affects fat-burning hormones. We'll explore what fasting really does to your metabolism. We'll even uncover how your mindset, yes, your beliefs, can change how your body stores or burns fat. Each strategy will come with a simple, practical tool you can start using today. Because fat loss isn't about extremes, it's about alignment, aligning your habits with your biology. Let's dive in. If you want to burn more fat without eating less or exercising more, start by fixing your internal clock. This might sound like a sleep tip, but it's actually a metabolic intervention. Your body has a central pacemaker in the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, that regulates your circadian rhythm. That rhythm doesn't just control when you feel sleepy, it also governs when your body releases fat-burning hormones like cortisol and growth hormone, how sensitive your tissues are to insulin, and even how efficiently you oxidize fat for fuel. Here's what the research shows. When your circadian rhythm is aligned, meaning your behaviors are synchronized with your biological clock, your body becomes more metabolically flexible. That means it can shift between burning carbs and fats more easily. When that rhythm is misaligned, say you're eating late at night, getting bright light at midnight, or waking up at different times every day, fat oxidation drops, blood sugar control gets worse, and inflammation rises. In a 2019 review published in Endocrine Reviews, researchers found that people who eat and move in alignment with their circadian rhythm burn more fat, store less of it, and sleep better, all without changing their calorie intake. Here's a simple analogy. Think of your metabolism like a solar-powered engine. It runs most efficiently when it gets bright light in the morning, fuels in a defined window during daylight, and rests at night. If you keep trying to power that engine at night by eating at 11 p.m. or staying on screens until 1 a.m., all by the way up, you're fighting biology, and biology always wins. So how do you realign your circadian system for fat loss? There are 3 key levers. Morning light. Within 30-60 minutes of waking, get bright light in your eyes. Natural sunlight is best, even on cloudy days. This triggers a cascade. Cortisol rises, melatonin drops, and your SCN sends timing signals to every organ in your body. That includes your liver, fat cells, and digestive tract, all of which start syncing to day mode. Tool. 10-20 minutes of outdoor light within an hour of waking, no sunglasses. If indoors, sit by the brightest window or consider a 10,000 lux light box. Consistent meal timing, your first meal acts as a metabolic anchor. Eating late at night disrupts insulin sensitivity and skews your rhythm. Research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism shows that people who consume more of their calories earlier in the day tend to lose more weight, even when total calories are the same. Tool: eat your first meal within 2-3 hours of waking. Stop eating at least 2-3 hours before bed. Aim for a consistent eating window, e.g. 10, i.e. meson, 6 p.m., that fits your life. Early movement. Your muscles are also clocks. They respond to movement like a time cue. Light exercise in the morning helps reinforce your circadian rhythm, improves insulin sensitivity for the rest of the day, and signals your body to start burning stored energy. Tool: do 10-20 minutes of low-intensity movement, a walk, light body weight routine, or yoga in the first hour of the day. Here's the deeper insight. Your metabolism isn't just about what you eat. It's when and how your biology processes energy based on time of day signals. When you train your circadian system, you're essentially giving your metabolism a better map. So if fat loss has stalled, ask yourself, am I in sync? Because sometimes the most powerful shift isn't in the gym or the kitchen, it's in the timing. Fat is not just fat. There are two primary types of adipose tissue in your body: white fat, which stores energy, and brown fat, which burns it. And here's the remarkable part. Brown fat is metabolically active. It's packed with mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of your cells, and its primary role is thermogenesis, producing heat by burning calories. Think of brown fat as a built-in furnace, and cold exposure is the dial that turns it on. A 2014 study in the Journal of Clinical Investigation showed that daily cold exposure, just 2 hours at 66 DEGF, 19 DFC, significantly increased brown fat activity and overall energy expenditure. Over time, this leads to improvements in body composition and insulin sensitivity. But how does it work? When you expose your body to cold, especially when skin temperature drops, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Norepinephrine is released, which activates brown fat. The mitochondria in these cells begin to uncouple, meaning they burn energy without producing ATP. Instead, they produce heat. This is part of your body's adaptive thermogenesis, a natural fat-burning mechanism. The colder you are, within safe limits, the more your brown fat is stimulated to keep your core temperature stable. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Cold exposure also improves your metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch between fuel sources. That's critical for sustainable fat loss. A 2021 paper in Cell Reports Medicine found that intermittent cold exposure increases glucose uptake, mitochondrial function, and even improves muscle insulin sensitivity, all of which support fat oxidation. Now let's talk protocol. You don't need ice baths or cryotherapy chambers to get the benefits. What matters is frequency, consistency, and mild discomfort. Tool 1. Cold shower finishers. After your regular warm shower, turn the water to cold for 30-60 seconds. Focus on breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, and try to stay relaxed. Over time, you can increase duration to 2-3 minutes. Contributes to morning outdoor exposure. If you live in a cool climate, step outside in minimal clothing for a few minutes in the morning. No jacket, no hat. This provides a dual benefit: circadian light and thermal stress, which together boost alertness and fat metabolism. Tool 3, ice water hand and face immersion. A study published in Nature demonstrated that brief cold exposure to the face activates the vagus nerve, reducing stress and promoting autonomic balance. Fill a bowl with ice water. Submerge your face or hands for 10-20 seconds. This is a gentler on-ramp for those not ready for full showers. You might be wondering, how does this tie into behavior? Here's the neuroscience, and it's powerful. Cold exposure also trains your relationship with discomfort. Each time you do it, you strengthen your prefrontal cortex's ability to override limbic resistance. That means more mental resilience, more habit control, and, as studies show, greater follow-through in your health goals. Have you ever noticed how you feel clearer, more energized, even euphoric after cold exposure? That's dopamine, the motivation molecule, rising in your system, often for hours post-cold. So yes, cold burns fat, but it also builds grit. If this kind of science-backed, practical insight is helping you, consider subscribing. This channel exists to bring you evidence-based tools to optimize your body and mind, and your support helps us keep creating deeply researched, high-impact content like this. Cold isn't just a tool for the body. It's a signal to your brain. We do hard things. And that mindset shift over time transforms more than your waistline. It's one of the most overlooked and underutilized fat loss tools in existence, walking. Not as a workout, not as cardio, but as a post-meal metabolic switch. Here's what the research shows. Walking for just 10 to 15 minutes after eating can lower postprandial after-meal blood glucose by 20-30%. That may not sound dramatic, but over time it adds up to better insulin sensitivity, more stable energy, fewer fat storing signals, and improved fat oxidation. A 2022 meta-analysis published in Sports Medicine looked at multiple studies on post-meal movement. The results? Light intensity walking after eating, even as little as 2 minutes, significantly improved glycemic control. That means your body handles sugar better, leading to fewer insulin spikes and less fat storage. But why does this happen? After you eat, your blood sugar rises. If that glucose isn't quickly used or stored efficiently, particularly in your muscles and liver, it circulates longer in your bloodstream, prompting a stronger insulin response. Insulin is essential, but chronically elevated levels signal your body to store rather than burn fat. Walking after meals activates your skeletal muscles, the largest glucose sink in your body. When muscles contract, they pull glucose out of the bloodstream independently of insulin. That means you're reducing your blood sugar and insulin response just by moving. Think of it like this. Eating puts sugar into the bloodstream. Walking opens the gate to get it out and put it to use. And here's where it gets powerful for fat loss. Over time, better glucose control leads to greater metabolic flexibility. Your body becomes more efficient at switching between carb and fat fuel sources. That means less hunger, less fat storage, and more sustained energy throughout the day. Tool: walk for 10-20 minutes after each main meal, especially lunch or dinner. And it doesn't have to be intense. A brisk stroll around the block, a treadmill walk while listening to a podcast, or walking your dog all count. The key is timing. Within 30 minutes of eating is ideal. Bonus tip: if walking after all meals isn't realistic, prioritize walking after your largest meal of the day, usually dinner. This is when insulin sensitivity tends to be lowest, especially in the evening. A post-dinner walk helps stabilize nighttime blood sugar and can even improve sleep quality. And here's a deeper insight. Walking after meals isn't just good for your metabolism, it's also a behavioral anchor. It creates a transition ritual between eating and the rest of your day. That can help produce grazing, emotional snacking, and nighttime cravings, habits that often derail fat loss. Have you ever finished a meal and felt sluggish, foggy, or even slightly anxious? That's often your body struggling with post-meal glucose regulation. A short walk acts as a natural buffer biologically and psychologically. And there's an evolutionary logic to this. For most of human history, eating was followed by movement, hunting, gathering, returning to shelter. Sitting immediately after meals is a modern phenomenon. Our biology is built for post-meal movement, not Netflix and a couch. So while advanced training and nutrition strategies matter, don't overlook the simple rhythms that your body expects. Because sometimes the most powerful fat loss tool is already in your daily life, waiting to be used with intention. Fasting has become a buzzword in health and fitness, praised by some as a metabolic miracle, dismissed by others as unsustainable or overrated. But let's step back from the noise and ask, what does the science actually show? Here's the core truth. Fasting doesn't burn more fat just because you're skipping meals. Fat loss always comes down to energy balance, how much energy you're taking in versus how much you're expending. But how and when you eat influences your hormones, your hunger signals, and your metabolic flexibility. And that's where strategic fasting becomes valuable. One key mechanism behind fasting is the drop in insulin levels. When you don't eat, insulin goes down, and that allows stored fat to become more available as fuel. A study published in Cell Metabolism found that early time-restricted eating, where subjects consumed all calories between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., significantly improved fat oxidation, insulin sensitivity, and appetite regulation, even without weight loss. So it's not just not eating, it's when you're not eating. There's also a profound circadian component. Your body is more metabolically active during daylight hours. Hormones like cortisol, insulin, and ghrelin, your hunger signal, follow a rhythm. Eating late, especially in the evening or at night, tends to disrupt sleep, elevate blood sugar, and impair fat metabolism. Here's a practical way to apply the science. Tool 1, compress your eating window. Start with the 12-12 protocol. 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of fasting. Eat 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Over time, consider a 10-14 or even 8-16 pattern if it feels sustainable. You don't need to jump into extreme windows. What matters is consistency and alignment with your natural rhythm. Front lumping your food earlier in the day and avoiding late night eating. 2, delay breakfast by 1 to 2 hours. Rather than skipping breakfast entirely, delay it slightly to create a short fasted period in the morning, especially useful if you're sedentary or doing low intensity movement. This helps keep insulin low and allows your body to tap into stored fat. Tool, fasted morning movement light exercise in a fasted state, like a walk or a mobility session, enhances fat oxidation. A study in the Journal of Physiology, 2010, found that participants who trained in a fasted state burned significantly more fat and improved insulin sensitivity compared to those who ate beforehand. But let's be clear. Fasting isn't a magic bullet. It's a behavioral structure, a way to limit late night snacking, create meal rhythm, and support your metabolic environment. It must be paired with nutrient-dense food and intentional recovery. And here's something rarely talked about. Fasting also improves psychological control. Every time you delay gratification, every time you say, I'm hungry, but I'm in control, you're reinforcing prefrontal override. That's the executive part of your brain learning to stay in the driver's seat. Over time, that translates to stronger willpower, clearer decision-making, and better habit resilience, not just in food, but in every domain of life. If you're finding these insights useful and you want to keep building a mind and body that work together, consider subscribing. This channel is about giving you the tools that make you feel informed and empowered, not overwhelmed. Your support helps us keep the science coming. Fasting isn't about punishment. It's about creating space for discipline, for metabolic reset, and for clarity. Use it wisely. And it becomes a tool not just for fat loss, but for freedom from constant cravings and chaotic energy. If fat loss were a courtroom, sleep would be the silent witness, often ignored, but always holding the truth. Because here's the surprising reality. Poor sleep can undermine your fat loss efforts, even if your diet and exercise are dialed in. And the reason has everything to do with what's happening in your brain and hormones while you sleep. Or don't. Let's start with one of the most eye-opening studies. In 2010, researchers from the University of Chicago published a landmark paper in Annals of Internal Medicine. 2 groups were placed on the exact same calorie-restricted diet. One group got 8.5 hours of sleep per night, the other only 5.5 hours. The result? The sleep-deprived group lost 55% less fat despite eating and exercising the same way. That's right. Sleep didn't just influence how they felt. It changed what kind of weight their bodies burned. Less sleep led to more lean muscle loss and more fat retention. But why does this happen? Lack of sleep disrupts 2 key hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is your hunger signal. Leptin tells your brain you're full. When you're sleep deprived, ghrelin goes up and leptin goes down, meaning you're hungrier, less satisfied, and more prone to overeating. What's more, poor sleep heightens amygdala reactivity, the emotional center of your brain, and weakens prefrontal cortex regulation, the part responsible for self-control and rational thinking. That's a dangerous combo when you're around processed food. Have you ever noticed how willpower feels non-existent after a short night of sleep? That's not a character flaw. That's neurological impairment. Tool 1, anchor your wake time. The brain's circadian clock, housed in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, thrives on consistency. Aim to wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. This sets the rhythm for cortisol, melatonin, and metabolic hormones, all of which influence body composition. Tool, get morning light exposure within 30-60 minutes of waking. Step outside and get natural light in your eyes. A 2021 study from the University of Colorado found that morning light exposure correlates with lower BMI, partly because it anchors your circadian rhythm and improves nighttime melatonin production. Tool 3, wind down intentionally. 1 hour before bed, begin a low stimulation routine. Dim the lights, avoid screens, and reduce cognitive. Reading a physical book, stretching, or journaling are all effective. The goal is to signal your nervous system that it's safe to shift into parasympathetic mode, where deep recovery and fat metabolism occur. And here's something empowering. Better sleep doesn't just improve fat loss, it enhances your discipline the next day. When you're well rested, your prefrontal cortex fires more effectively. That means stronger focus, better impulse control, and more strategic food decisions. In a sense, every good night of sleep sets the stage for a better day of fat loss behaviors. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but not seeing results, ask yourself, am I recovering enough to let my biology work for me, not against me? Sleep isn't passive. It's one of the most active metabolic processes your body undergoes. Growth hormone pulses. Fat gets mobilized. Neurotransmitters reset. Willpower is restored. It's not just what you do when you're awake, it's how deeply and regularly you recover when you're not. Many people chase fat loss by focusing on cardio, calorie counting, or cleanses. But if you're not deliberately building muscle, you're missing one of the most sustainable and science-backed ways to burn fat. 24/7, here's why. Muscle is biologically expensive. It takes energy to maintain, repair, and fuel. Even at rest, every pound of muscle burns 6 to 10 calories per day, compared to fat tissue, which burns just 1-2 calories per pound. Now, that may not sound dramatic on a per pound basis, but over time, as muscle mass increases, your basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns doing nothing, rises. You literally become a more efficient fat-burning machine, even while sleeping. And this effect compounds with something even more powerful, the afterburn. It's called EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. After strength training, your body requires more oxygen and energy to repair tissue, clear metabolites, and restore equilibrium. This process can elevate your metabolism for up to 48 hours post-exercise, depending on intensity. A 2002 study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology showed that a single resistance training session increased resting energy expenditure by up to 9% for 15 hours, and total fat oxidation rose significantly even in trained individuals. So while a treadmill session might burn more calories in the moment, lifting weights keeps working long after you leave the gym. But here's what's even more important. Muscle improves insulin sensitivity, the efficiency with which your body clears glucose from the bloodstream. When insulin sensitivity is high, more glucose goes into muscle and less into fat storage. When it's low, the reverse happens. Think of muscle as a metabolic sink. It soaks up excess fuel, stabilizes blood sugar, and makes your body more resilient to dietary slip-ups. Tool, One, lift heavy, focus on compound movements, squats, presses, rows, deadlifts that engage large muscle groups. You don't need to max out, but you do need to challenge your body. Aim for 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 12 reps per exercise. Intensity is what drives adaptation. 2, train at least 3x per week. Frequency matters. 3 full body sessions per week with at least 1 day of rest in between is an ideal starting point. Research shows that consistent resistance training improves fat-free mass and metabolic flexibility even in older adults. Tool. 3, prioritize protein to support muscle repair and growth. Aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, depending on your activity level. Distribute this evenly across meals and include a high-protein meal post-training. Here's something most people don't realize. Muscle is not just about aesthetics or athleticism. It's a neurological and metabolic investment. Muscle helps regulate myokines, signaling molecules released by muscle tissue that impedes inflammation, brain function, and fat metabolism. When you lift, you're not just shaping your body. You're changing your internal chemical environment. And for those worried about getting bulky, understand this. Muscle growth is a slow, deliberate process, especially without extreme calorie surplus or hormonal enhancement. What you're likely to experience is leaner lines, better posture, and a tighter, more sculpted look, not size for the sake of size. If you want to lose fat and keep it off without constantly restricting your diet, build the tissue that burns it for you. By now you've seen the truth. Fat loss isn't magic and it isn't mystery. It's biology, guided by behavior, driven by consistency, and amplified by strategy. Let's briefly anchor what we've covered. Create a caloric deficit intelligently. It all starts here. But instead of crash diets, we focused on sustainable strategies, modest calorie reductions, high protein meals, and understanding hunger hormones so your brain doesn't feel starved. Use exercise to signal, not just burn. Movement is more than just calorie expenditure. It's a message to your body to adapt, preserve muscle, and stay metabolically sharp. Resistance training and high-intensity intervals amplify this signal. Leverage NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. By elevating your daily movement through simple behaviors like walking, fidgeting, and standing more, you unlock a surprisingly powerful fat-burning advantage without needing more willpower. Manage stress to regulate fat storage. Cortisol isn't the enemy, but chronic stress is. By mastering emotional regulation, breath work, and boundaries, you shift your nervous system toward a fat-burning state, not a storage one. Prioritize sleep as your recovery multiplier. Fat loss doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the context of hormonal balance, impulse control, and recovery. Sleep is the keystone habit that holds all others in place. Build muscle, your metabolic ally. Muscle burns fat. Even at rest, it protects your metabolism, buffers against aging, and gives your body the shape you're working so hard for. Lifting weights isn't optional, it's foundational. Each of these tools isn't just a fitness tip, it's a behavioral lever grounded in neuroscience, physiology, and psychology. When applied consistently, they don't just accelerate fat loss. They elevate how you feel, function, and focus across your entire life. Because this isn't just about looking better. It's about being more mentally clear, emotionally stable, physically capable, and neurologically resilient. It's about unlocking the version of you that can pursue big goals, sustain energy, and lead others by example. And if you take only one idea from today, let it be this. Fat loss isn't just about subtraction. It's about alignment, aligning your environment with your goals, aligning your habits with your biology, aligning your mind with your mission. So here's your challenge. Pick one tool from today's list and apply it for the next 7 days, just one. Maybe it's anchoring your wake-up time. Maybe it's a daily walk after lunch. Maybe it's swapping out a cardio session for resistance training. Small levers, big changes. And if this episode helped clarify or reframe how you approach fat loss, if it gave you a protocol, a mindset, or a fresh dose of motivation, I'd love for you to like this video, leave a comment about which insight resonated most, and subscribe so you can grow alongside this science-driven community we're building together. We're here not just to look better, but to live better. And that starts by making evidence-based decisions one habit at a time. Thanks for being here. Now go put the science into action.